All right, so how to plan a lesson. This is an adaptation that I've written based on Madeline Hunter's lesson plan template. You don't need to know all that, but I was a public educator for several years, and I kind of modified it from one of my favorite lesson plan templates. So we're going to go over the most important components of a lesson. Listen to this quote. There is no such thing as an attention span. There is only the quality of what you are viewing. This whole idea of an attention span is, I think, a misnomer. People have an infinite attention span if you are entertaining them. Jerry Seinfeld, comedian. The research strongly supports that. You can take a child that doesn't pay attention in class, and if they're watching a good movie, they're going to focus because it's entertaining, because it's interesting to them, and they value that. With that in mind, if we keep the entertainment element in mind, that can help us understand a child's attention span, and adults too. Adults are no better than children, by the way, but just with attention spans, we have to understand how the brain works. When you start your lesson, we like to write everything on the board and keep it simple. So if you're going to play, the chords to Paradise by Coldplay, maybe you're only going to play the intro or the chorus. You may want to write, that in parentheses next to it, depending on what it is. Maybe it's a guitar solo by Stevie Ray Vaughan. It really depends on the level of your students. But try to be specific. Like if you're going to do a minor pentatonic position at position 1 at 100 beats per minute, write that on the board as well. But they need to know what they should be able to do, understand, and care about as a result of the teaching. We're going to talk about in another section of Bloom's taxonomy. These are questioning strategies that kind of help you provoke your students to thinking deeper about things. So instead of asking a question like, how many strings are on a guitar? They answer 6. You can ask them a question like, have them play something with 6 strings on the guitar. Have them think differently about it. So we'll go into that, but make sure it's a standard of ours that the student, before the lesson, that they will have an idea of where the lesson's going. They'll know that they'll be able to play the chords to Paradise by Coldplay, or they'll play with the whole song at 80% speed. And so we do have technology that helps us slow down and manipulate the speed of songs just to help our students. What materials are you going to have? Are you going to have an iPad? Know this stuff. Know before the students get there what you're going to use. I think most teachers find that they just use the same thing every week. So whether that be a MacBook or whatever, it's my opinion that the perfect lesson is 45 minutes. We schedule our lessons in 60-minute blocks. We don't go less than 50. And let me explain what I'm saying. A 45-minute lesson is perfect. There's no distractions. Everyone's like perfectly engaged. But you need that extra 10 minutes for the curveballs, for the questions, and the things that you're not expecting. You want to be flexible with your students, and that you're meeting their needs as best as you can, because things are going to happen that you're not expecting. That happens every week. But you also want to have structure so that you maintain control of the lesson. If you don't have that structure, your students will take over. Here's your anticipatory set. This is the intro. This is a game. It's a warm-up. It's something fun that's going to grab the students' attention. We like games. Just Google games for guitar students or drum students or voice students. Just, it could be an ear master game, an ear training game or something. That's the first part. It focuses their attention. It gets them excited about the lesson. Maybe it's just talking about a band performing a song if you have a video. And it kind of just gets the tone set so you can start a flow. Then here's the teaching part. Here's the meat of the lesson. If you understand this, it should be pretty natural. In fact, this is really the natural way that we learn. There's the input section. This is the first section where the instructor provides information for the students to gain the knowledge through whatever. It shouldn't be long, but it's basically giving them what they need, like a core chart or diagram or a capo or whatever they need to get started. You're going to need this core chart or whatever, or you're going to need this rudiment chart if you're a drum teacher, or this diagram, whatever. Then you model. So here's step one. The teacher says, today you're going to learn how to play this awesome guitar solo, and then you play the guitar solo for them. That establishes your authority, establishes you as an expert, and it communicates clearly to the student what is expected of them, so that they know. You show them. You haven't taught them anything yet at this point. Then you check for understanding. Do they understand what you're showing them? And if you ask the question, does this make sense? And a student says yes. How do you know that it does? How do you know they're not lying to you? Chances are they're probably lying to you. You can ask better questions. You can ask question strategies. We'll go into Bloom's taxonomy in another section, but just probe them for higher level thinking. Get them to think at a deeper level than just like, how many strings are in a guitar? 6. That's pretty low level thinking question. Here's a guided practice. A guided practice is, we're going to do this together. So I do, we do. This part of the lesson allows the students an opportunity to demonstrate their understanding of the lesson. And by the way, this can cycle 20 times in one lesson. Let's say you're doing a 4-measure section of a guitar solo, and the first beat needs to explain as one beat, and then we need to play this one beat together because it's kind of a weird, 16th note lick or whatever. And then go back. Here's the next part. Let's do this together. Now we're going to put the first two parts together. And so it could cycle a lot. Here's the closure. So you're going to spend most of your lesson in this area where you're actually just guiding the student to do what you're communicating to them to do. Here's a closure. These are statements by an instructor that are designed to bring a lesson or presentation to a conclusion. You want to cue the students to the fact that they are at the end of the lesson. Also, like, part of the closure, you can be at the end, not of like the whole lesson, but like of a segment of the lesson. And so closure could be just like, we're going to go around the room and everyone's going to play this first measure by themselves. So because we want to give you the recognition that you just learned this and it wasn't easy and you just worked, and you're going to encourage the other students in the group, if you're in a group lesson, to encourage and give them a hand clap and pat on the back. And again, it helps organize the students' learning. That's kind of the you do. So this is kind of the end of it. This independent practice, there's a lot of really cool ways that you can do this technique. The first one I just mentioned, you just go around the room and everybody play for each other. It's kind of cool. It helps them develop confidence when they do that. This also includes homework too, so it's the same thing. Like what you just did, you got to go do that every day. And in fact, I'm going to try to push you to do it a little bit faster. Or since I just taught you how to read this measure, your homework is to read 2 measures, even though we haven't started that. So try to get your students to start thinking ahead. Group work. You could do like little breakout sessions, for the last 15 minutes or whatever. It's just like, okay, now we're going to break into pairs and we're going to take turns playing for each other. That kind of makes the class feel a lot smaller, and then you as a teacher can kind of float around. Or if you have a student that is struggling and far behind, that might give you a little more opportunity to focus on that student. Or the opposite, if you have a student who's bored, who needs a little extra, that might give you an opportunity to teach them like maybe the harder part of a song that the other students won't probably learn. Individual work in class, they can do it on their own or in partners. So that's pretty much the structure in a nutshell.